Happy Sunday to everybody. What a wonderful day to get your witchcraft on, right, my friends? So, today is week 6. Can you believe it already? 6 weeks into this project, and we have some fantastic opportunities for you today. Now, today's ingredients, we have one that's going to be a little bit dangerous. This is one of the baneful herbs, okay? This is a yew tree. So you want to be very careful on how you approach this individual plant. You want to make sure that you try to reduce your contact with the sap on it, okay? Even the bark itself is a little bit screwy. What I'm going to be using today is a yew wooden bead, okay? And I've got the microplane. And so we're going to start off with the yew tree. And we're just going to hold it, and we're just not going to breathe it in, right? I mean, that's the thing, is like you don't want to inhale this stuff because it can get kind of bad. And just don't bleed into the thing while you're using it. That would just be not good. But you get a little of the powder off the yew, right? And this is going to connect us to the ancestors. This bridges the planes between the living and the dead, right? Because most of the time, the common use of this was in cemeteries. To grow out through the graves themselves and connect the spirits between this world and the other world. A lot of times you'll find yew trees in the old cemeteries that have gaps at their root, right? Where that's the fey roads in. The spirits can cross at the base of the tree. It's like going into the cave of the tree between the living and the dead. Yew trees are the facilitators of that, or one of the types of trees that are facilitators for that. So we're using this sparingly, okay? Because again, you don't want to make an ingredient blend that's too toxic for you to deal with. So I didn't even grind down half of the thing. It just enough to get that energy in there, right? And then we're going to be using the Palonemo tree. Now this is for opening up the roads between the worlds. So you've got the tree that is the gateway. Think about this as the key that goes into that lock. So you shave this with your microplane. And so today's blend with this is to get us to go into the other world, to get us to cross from one place to another. What would we do in this case, because we can't burn these ingredients, right? Well, you can mix these ingredients with an oil that becomes the base for exterior flames. So say, for example, you have a ritual space out in the woods, right? You can carve out the fire pit, right? This is assuming that you're not going to violate any local state regulations and stuff. You have actually got a space that's cultivated for this. You can do 3 rings of circles. In the circle that you make with fire would be your outer circle, right? And then you've got one of water, and then you've got one of dirt, which you're standing upon for your ritual, right? You can do it like that. Or in this case, you can use it to make an ink. In this case, using it to draw the arrays that open the gates between this plane and the other ones. So if you're going to be using the spell of summons for the array of spirits that I was talking about making, and which we actually might make today if I can find an extra sheet of the rounds that I use, to go through and demonstrate how to do that in the workshop. So for those of you that can, reminding you that today at noon Pacific time is going to be a workable witchery workshop, right? This is where you come in Zoom and you get to interact and you get to ask questions and you get to go through, and we'll get to apply some of the stuff that we've been working on all week, or over the last 6 weeks in this case, because now that there's a repository of spells, we can just go through and start pulling out ingredient blends, and we can start seeing how those manifestations line up, right? So as we go through and we do this, you have to think to yourself, why is it that you want to open up the gates? What on the other side do you need, right? What type of phenomenal cosmic power are you trying to aim at, when a lot of the time it becomes beneficial only to those that cross through, right? Only to those that are able to go on both sides at the same time, and they're pulling the power through the gateway so that they're pulling it from themselves through the gate that is themselves, but it's that version of themselves within another state, right? And so if you go back through the posts that I put up yesterday and you look at the math between the different spirits of the first gate, right? Like the first square of the art, where one is in its center, one is the origin, one is the earth, right? One is that power. And so all of the different number combinations on that gate in those sigils produces about 9 to the third, I believe, opportunities for manifestation, right? So it's not just 81, the 9 by 9, but it's, again, you add another 9 by that. So you've got the opportunity to get variation of energy without duplication. So right now we're not focusing on the duplicated energies, we're focusing on the singular energies. Why do you need to cross the gate? Why do you need to have something that is connecting you to the dead worlds and to the living worlds, right? And so this is what you can do is you draw your outer barriers on those arrays. You can use multiple inks, multiple colors of ink in the summons that you make, in the arrays that you make. So that way, as you create these things, and then as you add behind the array, so there's the array, and then you've got the square of the art that's going to be correspondent to what it is you're talking about, and then you've got the other herbs and things like that, or stone powders and things, which help connect it to the earth. And then you add the hide to it, so that way the skin on the back represents the animal onto which that spirit can latch in the other world, because again, the spirit of the animal is already deceased. The spirits of the plants are already deceased. Here, that doesn't mean they're not growing there. That doesn't mean it's not alive there. So those things that you need can horse through those individuals, those individual entities that you recombine and make one singular, right? So you're basically making something ride a goat between that world and this world, or you're making something ride on the back of rabbit skin, or you're making something ride on the back of whatever parchment or whatever hide that you have that you're using. Like it could be a cow, right? And it could ride the cow from that plane into this plane, okay? And so thinking about those things, working with those things, it doesn't require a lot. And so that's the thing, is again, you're just opening the gates and you're connecting to them. Now, the wood betony is going to be the primary ingredient on this one. That's going to anchor in and balance out those applications. In this case, I am just going to add a couple more of the fronds of the yew tree. I don't want to. I want to add just a little bit more of that. And so this one, it's got the yew needles along with the branches, but those get too fibrous sometimes. So we got those, we got those, we got the betony in there, we get to grinding. And again, we start to think, okay, what is it that's going to be the application that this best serves, right? In this case, the best use of it would be to draw a array, would be to be the formation through which, the gates through which these things come. What's up, Mike? I hope you'll be able to join today at noon for the workshop. I hope everybody's had a fantastic holiday. So, again, we're just going to grind down those herbs. The nice thing about it is if you've already pre-powdered it because of the microplane, right? Like, this is actually brand name microplane. So these things are fucking awesome to have on hand. You can get them at restaurant supplies too. But this essentially is going to be the ink onto which many, many things can be made. And so you can choose how is it going to come about that this serves you best? How is it going to be that this grows the best? What's up, Andrew? How's it going, my friend? That is some fantastic photos you posted of your new herb cabinet, by the way. I love the little risers that you have so that everything, like, yeah, that's fierce as fuck, man. Nicely done. Yeah, like, if you haven't followed what's going on, Andrew has posted up some of the photos. I believe it's in the Brotherhood group. If you could do it in the Workable Witchery group too, to show off like the things that you're doing. Like, this is good stuff, man. Like, this is the application of this work by someone else, right? And that's the thing, is to get it into somebody else's hands so that way you get the opportunity to make it grow, right? And so as I go through and refine my messaging, and as I go through and refine the ingredient lists and things like that to get the right correspondence down, so that way when we're thinking about what spells we can do, right? Like this week's spells of the week, there are 3 ingredients that correspond to Jupiter. There are 4 that correspond to the Sun. There's 1 that corresponds to Saturn, 1 that corresponds to Uranus, 1 that corresponds to Mars, 2 that correspond to Mercury, 1 to Venus, and 1 to Pluto. So that as we're doing these things, we're connecting to the planets not just the terrestrial meaning, but the ingredients themselves can channel the planetary energies. So when we start to think about adding things from the celestial perspective, you've got a foundation on which we can stand. Okay? So I'm going to finish grinding this down. It's going to be boring and probably, mostly boring for those of you that are looking for engagement and talking and the noise that's coming out of my face hole. So I'm going to let you go. Get your stuff prepared for the workshop. Get your questions in order. Figure out what herbs you want to work with first. Figure out what blends you've been working on. Come with your list of spells that you've created and the manifestations from them. That's going to be imperative. So I look forward to seeing you, my friends. I look forward to seeing what you have to do this week, right? And let this be a blend that connects the planes and bridges the worlds so that you have a foundation as we move forward from this old year into the new one. That you have the means by which that can occur. So thank you, my friends, and I will see you in the workshop. Bye for now, y'all. And again, don't burn these ingredients because of the U. That stuff is dangerous, so don't poison yourself either.